All right, welcome to Jot This Down with Broken Taffy and Troy. Today we're going to be reviewing Detective Pikachu.
So earlier today, okay, first of all, would you recommend someone to see this? Even if you weren't like a Pokemon fan, would you suggest anyone to go see this movie?
Yeah, I liked it. I liked the movie.
It was
a good time. It's not a complicated movie, but it was fun. The animation was good.
Okay.
It was humorous.
It was very funny.
And I enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend, even if you're not a Pokemon fan, that you go see it. I'm not a huge Pokemon fan.
Yeah, I really do like Pokemon, though. I don't think I mentioned this on my channel, but yeah, I do really like Pokemon.
Yeah, I'm not very knowledgeable about all of the new Pokemon stuff. Like, going into the movie, I didn't realize there was a Pokemon game called Detective Pikachu.
Oh, okay.
I thought this was just like
a movie.
Maybe there was a comic book or a animated short that they did, and so they turned it into the movie. I didn't realize there was a
think the video game. So you know how they do like the comics for like the stuff,
right? Like
they have like the backwards thing. I feel like Detective Pikachu might have been a comic before, but if not, yeah, it was definitely based off the video game. A lot of stuff was different than the video game. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that
I haven't played it, but I saw it. I remember seeing it on the 3DS. I think is what it came out with.
Well, like, do we think the main character that's not Pikachu, like the kid, was he in the video game?
Yeah.
He was?
Yeah, it was about his dad. It was about finding his dad.
Okay.
It's based off the game, but I'm pretty sure it's different.
All right.
Don't quote me on that, but I mean, I know that the kid was looking, yeah. Like it says even on the trailer or whatever, or the art for the game, it has the kid and then Pikachu.
All right. Well, first off, just quick review of the movie. The movie is really about fathers and sons and the relationship between fathers and sons when they haven't been together, more than it is about
Pikachu.
Yeah, a human and a Pokemon.
All right.
But the way they integrate the Pokemon into the movie is really cool. It's the animation is not like you believe that these people are living with the Pokemon. You don't get taken out of the movie by the animation like you do in some animated movies. It feels more realistic, even though you do know that there aren't really Pokemon in the real world.
Right. Well, I know a lot of Pokemon are based off of real animals, but they're not real. Like there's the caterpillar one is based off a real looking Pokemon.
Right.
Alright, so for the first part of this podcast, or this episode, why don't we try not to do our spoilers? This is the before spoilers review, and then we'll do a spoilers review.
Yeah, we'll just...
So for this first part, we're just going to tell you why we liked it just a little bit, and then we're going to get into spoilers. So when we say it's spoiler time, just click away if you haven't seen it. So far in this movie, or no, not in the movie, in real life, what is your favorite Pokemon that you know of?
I mean, I always like Pikachu.
Really?
It's the main, he's the guy that they use to advertise all the Pokemon stuff.
See, that's why I don't like Pikachu.
And I like him because it makes no sense why you would use a furry little hamster character to advertise all of your Pokemon stuff when there's all of these other Pokemon that seem to be more powerful and cooler.
Right.
But the little hamster always wins.
Well, it's because it's a mouse, first of all.
Well,
I know. It is a mouse.
He's a mouse.
It's a mouse. I think it's a mouse electricity Pokemon. Let's see. Okay, so now I'm going to say my favorite. My favorite is Doduo because of it's like an ostrich. Because of the comics, and it was really cool. I thought I saw it at the very beginning, but it might not have been. Do you want to...
That is one thing about the movie that it does not do well is explain or introduce you to all of the Pokemon that they show. They show a lot of Pokemon that they don't explain to you, like, what they do, or they're just there. Like, you see a lot of Pokemon, and then the ones that you interact with, they explain a little bit about.
Well, I understood them because I like Pokemon, because I know. But if you haven't seen it and you look at it, like, you don't really need explanation, because I feel like the people who, like, made the movie feel like you should know. Like, if you're going to watch a movie about Pokemon, you should probably know, like, a brief idea about what most of them do and what type they are.
Well, but that's a drawback for it for people who are just going because they heard it was a good movie.
Right.
Like, you see some little dinosaur-looking Pokemon, and it doesn't do anything.
Right.
Well, okay, that's great. They're just all these dinosaur-looking Pokemon walking all over the place, but they don't do anything. You don't know whether they're important, not important. Well, since they don't explain it, I guess they're not important.
Well, yeah. Well, some of them are important.
It doesn't matter to the story, like all of the Pokemon in the background that are everywhere. But if you're not as versed in what the Pokemon are and everything, you're just kind of like, oh, that's cool. And for the people that do know more about the Pokemon, it's kind of a little Easter egg for them to see one that maybe is from a different story that they thought was really cool,
right?
But is just kind of there on screen for a little bit.
Like, the reason Dodo is my favorite is because of the comics. I don't remember the name of the girl. Spoiler alert if you haven't read the comics, but you probably haven't if you're listening to this. The person pretending to be a girl was actually a guy, or no, other way around. And Dodo was her starting Pokemon. So I just thought it was cool, and then that's now my favorite because it's my favorite comics for the Pokemon. Is there any? All right, do you want to head into spoilers for the thing, or do you want to keep talking? No,
let's just give a real quick highlight of the characters that we liked without spoiling anything about what they do in the movie, and the like 3 key things that you liked or disliked about the movie that don't have to do with the plot. So I can give you my thoughts on that, and then let's see what you think back about what I'm saying.
Most of my things are spoiler related.
Okay. So well, then I'll give non-spoiler opinion. Okay. Since I'm not as versed in the Pokemon world.
All right. What is something that you did not like about this movie?
First, let me give you what I liked. Okay. Then I'll give you what I didn't like.
Okay.
My brain thinks in that order.
All right, that's fine.
So, first thing I liked about the movie is you start out with Pokemon being a main part of the plot right in the very beginning.
Right. It wasn't just about humans.
Like, they don't introduce you to Pokemon and try to explain to you who these Pokemon are. They just basically put them there and make you feel like Pokemon have always been around and they've always been a part of the world, and you just have to accept them, and then you go right into the story. And so there's no build-up, there's no explanation about where the Pokemon came from. They're just there. And so this world that you're in are humans and Pokemon interacting,
right? And
they make it seamless. There is no event that brought Pokemon around. They've just always been there. I thought that was cool. It makes the viewer feel like they're not being thought less of. Like they just kind of give you something to make you feel like, cool, we just accept this and we move on.
Right.
The second thing, as I already said before, the animation style that they used integrates really well with the real world pictures and things that they're doing. So they integrate the animation with the human actors and with the actual buildings and things, and just make it seamless. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of you're not taken out of the story because you're like, oh, there's no way that this red and blue would actually be in the real world. Like the coloring and everything blends in with the background. And then the third thing was they take the acting, and the actors take everything seriously.
Yeah.
Like they interact with each other and with the animated characters just like they would with any of the human characters.
Right.
And they don't they just don't take anything for granted. They really emote and work back and forth, and they got the emotions on the animated characters really well, especially Pikachu. Like carries a lot of the movie with the emotions on his face. So that was good. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I know he says you're gonna need a detective. Pikachu does. You're gonna need a detective for the reason or whatever. But I don't think once in this movie it ever says Detective Pikachu, which is weird because most movies say like the title of the movie in it.
Right.
Like this particular movie didn't say. No one said Detective Pikachu. It was just a detective story. See,
with Pikachu
wasn't really a detective. Alright, we're getting into spoiler territory here.
Right.
So before you say the things you didn't like, why don't we end this part 1, and we'll see you in the part 2 of this episode.
All right.
Alright, so welcome to part 2 or volume 2 of the episode. It's not like that in the YouTube video, but it is in the podcast. So, right now, Troy's going to do a few facts that I actually didn't really recognize. What was one of them?
Okay, these are a couple of things that you don't have to be a Pokemon fan to have observed in the movie. And the first thing is, and these are spoilers, but they don't really spoil.
Yeah, it probably will say in the cast. Anyways.
Yeah, they don't spoil anything about the movie. They're just about cast members in the movie.
At one point, there were two DJs in the movie, which I think they were in the trailer. So,
right, and they play a key part in one part of the movie. They're in a club with these Pokemon that have speakers on the Pokemon, and so they're DJs working with these Pokemon to play music. And one of the DJs is an actual DJ, Diplo, and he is in the movie. He doesn't have an acting part really. He just
goes
on the stage as the DJ. But then another musician shows up in the movie in a supporting role as a scientist, but it's the singer Rita Ora, and she actually has a song that they play at the end of the movie. So I'm guessing she got an acting part in the movie, but also is part of the soundtrack, and that's probably how they hooked her in.
She sang the credits song.
Right, and Diplo probably has some music on the soundtrack also.
Alright. Also, those speaker Pokemon, if you didn't know, are called Loudred. And,
yeah, I had never seen them before.
I have seen them and heard about them, but I forgot the name. But
they were pretty cool. They were actually, if we're going to go past Pikachu as my favorite Pokemon, I probably would like to have some Loudred around just to play my music for me. Because they seem pretty awesome.
Okay, so I'm gonna. All right, so now we're going to get into spoilers because I have something to relate to that. Spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, don't listen to any of the rest of this. Okay. All right. So the Loudred, when they got the purple powder stuff, so it was just like boo da boo da boo, and then when they got the powder, it was like. This is what it sounded like. That was really funny.
It was like they were hooked up to an amplifier.
Yeah.
All of a sudden.
It just went like Madhouse.
Yeah. So what Izaiah is talking about is into the spoilers of the movie, but a quick 2-minute basic explanation of what the movie was about is this guy finds out that his father passed away and has to go investigate. He has to go to the city that his dad was living in and wrap things up from his father, what he thinks passed away.
Right.
When he gets to the city, he starts trying to clean up his father's apartment and gets introduced to Pikachu. Pikachu tells him that he doesn't think that his dad passed away because Pikachu was his dad's Pokemon partner, because his dad was a detective, and he believes that his dad, since he's alive, that his dad is still out there. They find out they were investigating a drug called R, this purple...
Because of Rhine City. That's why it's called R.
But it's this purple gas that makes Pokemon kind of go...
Insane.
They amp up their powers for a little while. And so when he's investigating, trying to find his dad... they end up in a club where Pokemon fight, and all this purple powder gets released, and that's what happens with the speaker.
When
Pokemon.
The speaker, the Loudred.
The Loudred, they get amped crazy up when they get on the purple powder.
Pun intended.
Yes. And there's more to the story as you go through the movie. And I'll let Isaiah kind of talk to you about the things that he liked about the story and what he didn't like about the story. Seems like he has a couple things that he might want to pick apart.
I want to tell you something, because you're not a big Pokemon.
Right.
Do you know that first at the beginning, I guess they're going over for the good old times. Okay, one thing I did not like, the main character's friend is at the beginning.
Jack.
Is that his name?
That was his name.
He never gets brought up ever again throughout this movie, which is weird. And
he's dressed up. This is one thing I do know about Pokemon isn't the original guy who had Pikachu as his Pokemon Ash?
Yeah.
Well, he's dressed like Ash.
Oh, jacket. Was he red?
He had a red hat. He had a red jacket and a backpack.
Okay, well,
But he's not Ash.
Right.
And Ash never shows up in the movie.
No. I don't... two things I want to ask. Do you think there will be a sequel to this movie? And if it is, what do you think it will be called?
I don't know if there will be a sequel. The way they wrapped the movie up...
Made it sound like there wasn't going to be.
They did. They wrapped the movie up. But they can always, if they come up with a new story or if enough people watch it, they could always have another movie.
Yeah,
I don't know that.
It would definitely
it might be another Detective Pikachu, or it could be a detective, some other Pokemon.
No, I know movies now, but I'm pretty sure it won't be Detective another Pokemon just because Pikachu is the most popular Pokemon in the world. But I feel like it might be like Detective Pikachu Returns or something like that. It really depends on how well this movie does and how it grows and like the reviews, but which really doesn't mean anything. I think the first Amazing Spider, not the newer ones, the Amazing Spider-Man, remember that one?
Yeah.
Not just Spider-Man. The first one I think got like a 40% review on everyone. Everyone got like 4 out of 10. Another thing, at the beginning, with the Pokemon, that Pokemon that is catching, do you remember the name of it?
No.
Okay, it's Cubone.
Cubone.
Okay. One, do you know what the helmet on his head is made out of? Because the guy, what's the main character's name?
I don't remember. That's a drawback of the movie is I don't remember the main character's name because they.
No, I mean they said it. I think
they said it.
No,
a lot,
did they?
But it's not memorable. It's not a name like. I have no idea what his name was.
Okay.
I think he said that was the skull of his parents or something.
Okay. He said of a deceased relative.
Deceased relative, yeah.
And the Cubone, why it was crying is because it cries because that helmet is the skull of his mother.
Okay.
And all of them have the dead mother as their helmet, and that's why they're always crying, because their deceased mother is on their head.
Well, that's kind of morbid.
Yeah.
That kind of brings it down a little.
Yeah.
And why, like, one thing
why that? Well, it's because he was sad, because, remember?
Yeah, and because his mother passed away. The main character's mother had passed away when he was 11. So his friend thought that it would be a good Pokemon for him, because if they are wearing the skulls of their dead mothers, then why wouldn't that Pokemon be able to relate to the main character?
Right.
But it is a weird kind of subplot that the main character Tim.
Sorry,
that's why you can't remember his name. It's only 3 letters. Tim, but they don't say Tim a lot.
Maybe they do, but
like
not
Pikachu never refers to him as Tim.
Yeah, it's partner.
If he does, he just always says, "You're my partner. You're my pal," or
because
whatever.
They call them partners.
Yeah. But Tim has a hard time. When he was a little kid, he wanted to be a Pokemon trainer, and then I guess when his mom passed away, he stopped caring about Pokemon and doesn't really want to have anything to do with them. But now that his father was missing, it kind of forces him to get back into relating to the Pokemon and stuff.
You know, now that we're talking, I'm getting out of that section now.
Okay.
One of my favorite Pokemon is, gosh, I don't remember the name. I'll look it up real quick. I think it's...
Alright,
so one of my favorite Pokemon is Golbat. And I really wanted to see Golbat. I saw Dodrio in the movie, but I like Doduo more. I mean, I saw him for like a split second, but it stinks that it wasn't in longer. But yeah, I feel like Golbat should have been in it because I know it's one of the fan favorites Pokemon because it played a big part in the television series.
Well, and that may be
part of the
why it wasn't in this movie. Because they are thinking about having another one in the future, and they'll introduce other Pokemon and other fan favorite things in the next movie if they do one. It was kind of a huge intro to have Mewtwo as the villain,
it's a villain in the TV show and in the comics. Mewtwo has always been the villain.
But he's a huge Pokemon. Like
he's the most powerful because he's human created.
Right.
Mew is like the rarest Pokemon or something like that, and was like forged in a cave or something like that.
Well, just having Mewtwo be introduced as the main antagonist villain.
Which makes sense because Mewtwo is always... I mean, he looks bad.
Yeah,
he looks
like
bad.
an alien.
But he is an alien. Mew is an alien.
Yeah, so all of the other Pokemon look like animals.
Right.
And Mew is this alien-looking thing that can control everything with its mind and do all of this crazy stuff.
Right.
But I don't know where you go for a villain in the next movie.
That is a good question.
I think you have to make it just a human villain. Go for it.
So, one of the things in the club that was weird to me, because they're fighting, because Rhine City is a place where Pokemon and humans are friends or whatever, and there's no Pokeballs, which is weird because it's like the signature trait for Pokemon, and the only Pokeball you see is at the very beginning, and you never see it again, which is interesting to me. Which makes sense why there was no Pokeball like signs in Rhine City.
It's a city where the Pokemon and the humans work together and live together. There's no trainers.
Right.
It's like a anti-slavery city.
Right. Yeah, basically. in the club, one of the guys said, Tim, you're under arrest, or whatever, remember? He looks over him and he's like, Tim, you're under arrest.
Right.
And then he takes him to the thing, which is weird because I guess it might be illegal in the city to do battles. Would everyone else be arrested too? Because how did they find Tim if he... how did they know Tim was there? Shouldn't everyone else be in the same place too? Or that just doesn't really make any sense to me. We will talk about it in the next part. So now we're going to... I don't understand. It's really confusing. Why don't you think they didn't do that? At least show.
They just didn't show anybody else getting arrested. I think most likely they just did that because it wasn't important to the plot of the movie.
It wasn't.
It was a way to get Tim back in front of the lieutenant or the officer that worked with his dad, and so that he could talk to him again, and so that police officer could show Tim the video of his dad in the accident and try to convince Tim that his dad was actually dead and that he didn't need to keep trying to find him. And
then you meet the bad guy.
Well,
which is
at that point you don't.
No, before. Okay, so it takes it to the prison, and then after the prison, he goes to the guy who created Ryan City, and then he says, Tim's like, well, then where did Mewtwo take him? And then he's like, that's what you have to do.
Right, that's what you have to find out because
he led Mewtwo to him, so he could be him, so he could be Mewtwo, like the bad guy.
Right. And what else do you have as far as...
Okay, so the first... Not after the very first part, but after the first scene, for 15, 20 minutes, it was very slow pacing. When he's in his room, thinking about, he should have gone with his dad on the train, or whatever. It was very slow paced for a while, and then it got a little bit action-y. I'm trying to talk about things that I didn't like, but this makes me bring something up. Something I really liked about the movie is that... So the thing about Ryan City is, in the TV show, Ryan City, Ash went to Ryan City to meet, or get, I think, fight the Magikarp Pokemon, which his friend, which was that girl or whatever, I don't remember her name, which is weird because I should... her Pokemon was Magikarp, and she was one of the people from Ryan City. And the plot of the TV show is you had to collect all the badges from all the cities. And Ryan City was the one that the main girl character was from. And she fought him to get the badge. So that was cool that Ryan City was a big part, just like in the movie, just like it was in the TV show.
Okay. So
that was neat.
Yeah.
All the trailers for this movie were, kid friendly. I didn't see a Toy Story 4 one, which was weird. Probably because it wasn't Disney.
Right.
But still. They showed the Godzilla King of Monsters movie, which is weird because it's not really a kid's movie. It's about Greek mythology. This movie is set really for, it could be for anyone. But for, I don't know, for, age purposes, I'd say, 7 to 12. For, kids who, if you're a parent and you have a 7 to 12-year-old, they would really enjoy this movie, right? So,
right.
And the Godzilla movie isn't going, a 7-year-old, maybe so the parents will go watch it. That makes sense now. Maybe that's it.
No, this movie was definitely, I would say it was even more age-friendly. It was probably...
It said like 2 cuss words, but what movie does it now?
Like 5 or 6 to whatever age. Like, once you get there... You might be right with 7, because there were some things... You had Zarzar, or whatever, the dragon-type... Charizard, the dragon-type... Charizard, the dragon-type Pokemon might be scary to smaller kids.
Yeah, and see Pikachu, die.
Well...
And see Pikachu explode.
Yeah, seeing all those things, it might be a little bit too much for little kids.
Right.
But it
unless
really
they're like a newborn, they wouldn't understand it.
Yeah, it really was a pretty elementary on age-friendly movie.
Stuff. It was weird.
And the themes of the movie are definitely about
Pokemon.
Parents and their kids, fathers, sons, mothers, sons. It is something.
A very family movie. It's a good movie to see with your family.
Yeah, they want you to bring your kids to the movie, and you would want to watch it with your parents or with an adult, because you can both enjoy it. It's definitely going to be something that all ages can enjoy. In the theater that we were in when we watched it, there were all ages. It wasn't just
it was
kids.
Mostly adults, actually.
But
I saw 4 kids.
Yeah, there were little kids, and then there were
adults.
There were couples.
I think
so. It's pretty friendly. And if you're 30 years old and grew up with Pokemon,
it would be a good movie to watch.
For you.
Right? It doesn't matter. We're not being mean or anything. If you like Pokemon, go watch the movie. It's a really good movie. It's a really good movie, and I'm surprised I have so many bad things to say about it. It's not that it was a bad movie. I'm just nitpicking things that could have made the story better and that were confusing. Which is why when you, at the beginning of the first episode, or the first little thing for this one, you were like, it wasn't a confusing movie. It was very straightforward. The plot wasn't all weird. And I'm thinking in my head, no, you're wrong. Because there were a lot of stuff that didn't make sense if you know the Pokemon, probably.
Right.
It might not be confusing if you don't know Pokemon, but because I'm not a Pokemon thing I know every Pokemon ever. But I have a brief knowledge of Pokemon that I know a few things didn't really make sense to the story.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you.
Sorry.
But I don't have a lot more to say about the movie, except for to tell people it's worth the money. Go watch it. I'm going to let Isaiah wrap up with his thoughts. And
maybe.
with things that he wants to say, but I give it a 2 toes up, because I'm not using thumbs on movies. I'm gonna. That's my new
cool.
grading scale is toes. So I give it 2 big toes up.
What would you rate this movie out of 10?
A 7+.
Mine would be maybe 8.5.
Yeah. But
no, I don't know. I'll think at the very end. I'll say it again. I think the reason they did the Godzilla is the Legendary and 20th Century, Warner Brothers made this. They're the 2 people that also made Godzilla.
Right.
So now it makes sense. Alright, so another thing that was weird is, so in one scene, there's, in the car, this movie makes it seem like the actual bad guy's son is the bad guy. Because he talks about him wanting to get rid of all the Pokemon just like he wants, which is weird because that's not his actual motivation. But Ditto it's a Pokemon, and it can shapeshift into anything. That's why. I didn't know if you knew what that was, but it's called Ditto. It actually used to have a different name, but they changed it after a year, I think. He's in there disguised as what you think is the bad guy, but is not. He opens the computer, or a computer-looking thing, and shows security footage of the kids in the building, which is weird, because shouldn't the actual bad guy have the security? Why would a Ditto Pokemon that probably doesn't understand everything that's going on right now have security footage and be like, why am I looking at this again? Like, it's just, it felt weird to me now that we know that it was Ditto.
I think they just did that to disguise, to give you a surprise at the end. That
I know, but it's just
who you thought was the bad guy wasn't the bad guy.
Right, one of those little it's very twisty, as he said.
It was kind of a Roger Rabbit ending. Like, if you've ever seen Roger Rabbit.
I mean, I know what it is, but I don't think I've ever seen it.
There's a reveal that the bad guy
was
different,
or whatever.
And all of that stuff. And, it just... I think they just did it
before I knew
shock you.
Before I knew it was Ditto, I was like, okay, so I wrote down my notes. Guy, just have a computer to watch security, autocorrect. But, like, it's a guy, because I thought it was the son, because I wrote some notes down while I was in the theater. And then after, I was like, alright, I can scratch it, but now it still doesn't make sense. I said, just get a security guard or something like that. But now that we know it's Ditto, it's still, I mean, I understand it, that you've explained it, but it doesn't completely make sense.
Yeah.
Also, in that scene, what's the woman's name who's the singer?
Rita Ora.
Okay.
She's the doctor.
She's the doctor. It's funny, when they went to the flashback or whatever, what was going on then, she was explaining everything that they were doing as she was like, alright, so now we are putting this inside of this, and now I am moving my hand over here and putting this inside this. Like, she was narrating what she was doing, but she didn't have like an earpiece. Like it'd be different if she was talking to someone what she was doing, but she didn't. She was just narrating what she was doing. I thought that was weird, because it's like, first of all, movie, we're not that dumb. We can see what you're doing, but I don't know. I just thought that was weird and funny at the same time.
I mean, I just took it as maybe she knew she was on camera and knew that the person on the other side of the camera had audio, so she was talking to them.
Yeah.
So since the eventual bad guy is wheelchair bound, he couldn't be in the room, so he had to watch stuff via laptop or TV or whatever, and so she was just kind of talking to him,
right,
and talking it through. But I just took it that way.
Alright, so now we're going to wrap this one up, and I have to say a few facts. Well, maybe not a few, just like one or two. And we might think of other things to say, we don't know. But we'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Okay, so Nintendo, if you don't know what this is, I'm sure you do. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate came out on the Switch last year on December 7th. Because I remember, because I wanted it for my birthday. Because my birthday is like a few days after it. After it was released or whatever. Two of the newest Pokemon characters in the Smash Bros. Game were Greninja and Mewtwo. Which I thought, okay, this movie now makes more sense, because those were two main characters in the movie. Greninja, it's a cliché, like, as soon as they were walking and they were looking into the dark bubble, like every movie ever, and then a hand just goes, like, hits the glass. It was Greninja, which, it was funny, because while we were sitting there, and I was like, oh, it's dark, guess what's gonna happen? If you were looking at me, you would see me put my hand up in the air like this right before it happened. I'm like, it's going to be the hand. It's always the hand. It's literally, there's a show called Lost in Space, and the logo is the hand on the bubble. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be a hand, but it's not really a hand as a Pokemon. I don't know. But
those are the frog-like Pokemon,
right? Greninja,
yeah. Like ice or something.
The Ninja Stars.
Yeah.
Greninja is a new Pokemon in the Smash Bros. Game. So is Mewtwo, which is also a big part in this movie. So I wonder if they were kind of showing, like, stuff off, because I think Nintendo owns Pokemon.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because I didn't see Nintendo in the... I mean, maybe I did.
I think the writers were from Nintendo or from Pokemon. Like, I think Pokemon is its own...
It is. It's a
brand. And so,
Yeah.
but Nintendo owns the rights to do Pokemon games and
Right.
things like that. So,
now I'm going to wrap up. That was kind of my last thought there. But now I'm going to wrap up the review. I think my rating might be 8.5 is what I thought. Now that I'm doing it again, I think it will be a 7.5 out of 10. Just because of the things that I reviewed and realizing that it was a really good movie because I really like Pokemon. But yeah, it was good. I just now remembered what one of my favorite parts of the movie was after like 2 episodes later, I don't know how long. What was the funniest part in this movie that you think was, Troy?
the funniest part. Honestly, I don't know for me what the funniest part was, but I'll give you the part that I remember that made me laugh.
Okay, which was that?
It's in the previews.
Oh,
It's where
he's like,
they're in the back of the car, and Pikachu is sitting next to, is it Squirtle or Squirt?
the duck. Whatever. It's like a platypus. It's a Psyduck, I think is what it's called.
Psyduck. Yeah, he's sitting in the back of the car with him, and they're playing calming music, and he says something to him about, oh, we have to listen to this so you don't explode.
Yeah, because he explodes when he gets stressed out.
And then Psyduck puts his foot up and wants
him to massage it.
Pikachu to massage it.
That
and
was
at first
funny.
He's like, I'm not going to massage your foot.
And he's like, I'm going to explode.
And then he starts thinking through, like, if the brain explodes, what'll happen to everybody in the car. And so he ends up massaging the foot of the Pokemon driving next to him, and Pikachu's in like a baby seat.
Right.
That to me was pretty funny.
My favorite part of this movie, the funniest to me, not my favorite part, but the funniest part, was when they saw Mr. Mime, which is one of my favorite Pokemons because he plays a good part in the comics. But Mr. Mime, I loved how the stuff, like the hand motions for the stuff was.
Yeah.
That just thought it was really funny. Like when he pulled out the match and he was like, "Oh, we got him," and then he let go of his hand because I guess he forgot that he was pretending that he had a match or something.
Right.
And then it fades to the camera to black, like, oh crap.
And you have no idea what happened.
Right.
Yeah, that was good.
I just remembered one thing that I didn't like, which is weird because I thought we motioned that. In the lab place, there was those Pokemon that I've never even heard of before that they are camouflaged and they almost look like turtles.
Right.
And they move up
like terraforma or something.
It was something
weird like that.
And it was literally like a turtle shell was like land. And they said like the powder made it grow or something like that. So they made it seem like when he exploded, that made everything fall up. But I think it woke up. It woke up those guys. But another weird thing is that so when they're running around, because all the stuff is getting lifted, Tim decides he wants to jump or whatever, right? Right. And he jumps. So at first he's the highest, okay? He's the highest at its highest point, and he jumps to the lower one. But in the next shot, it's like reversed, and now the one that he jumped lower on is now higher, even though it never rose. So, which is weird because it's like, did everything just explode or something? Because I mean, maybe they just.
I think it may just be the perspective change of the angle.
Maybe
of what you're looking at, but maybe it was an editing issue.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. This movie I think took like 3 years or something. So hopefully the last thing I want to mention about it just goes along with this stuff. She says, "I'll meet you at the gate," right? She goes, "I'll meet you at the car." Weird, because she's the closest one to the car, and Tim and Pikachu get there before her, even though they were captured by the bad guy. They walked with the Bulbasaurs, which is my second favorite Pokemon, and then it turned out Mewtwo. They think Mewtwo is a bad guy, but he's not, right? And then it's just weird how they got there earlier than her, even though they went the long way, and they did extra stuff, but she got there later. I almost freaked out for a second.
They probably edited out the scene that explains why she got there later. That would be my guess.
I just think so she could come back and be like, where'd he go? Why is he running away?
Right.
Oh, man. Oh, so dramatic.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's my final thought. Your rating is 7, right?
7 plus.
It's so 7.5.
Between a 7 and an 8.
So
but it's
mine is also 7.5.
Yeah.
My voice is cracked. Is there anything else you want to say about this movie before we end it?
No, just that I do like Ryan Reynolds. He was great as the voice.
He's Deadpool, right?
Yes.
He plays Deadpool. Which
he was great as the voice of Pikachu.
People thought he would be an Endgame.
Yeah, he was good as the voice of Pikachu.
Yeah.
And did a good job. But that's it. I gave it 2 toes up. I think it's a movie that you could watch again and go see it.
All right. I feel basically the same. You really should go watch it, even if you're not a Pokemon fan. Just thank you for listening to our podcast episode. Hope you've enjoyed it. Have a great week, and we'll talk next time. And just remember to jot this down. Goodbye.